Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Kindness Podcast live. This is super exciting for me because this is the first time that I have ever interviewed someone and gotten to look into their eyes. Normally I'm in a studio and, we have engineer Adam over in Ohio and I'm in South Dakota now. And so he and I work through things and the guests kind of join us on the phone usually, but now you can indeed teach an old dog new tricks. So here I am, and I am so excited to talk today with Adrienne Bankert. Now, some of you are going to see Adrienne's face and go, "Oh my goodness, I know her." She is an ABC News correspondent and a correspondent for Good Morning America, and she was at the royal wedding with Harry and Meghan, and she was the one who covered the 13 boys and their soccer coach. Who were trapped underground. It's just, she has won awards. She's just amazing. So you know what? I'm going to stop telling you about her and let her tell you about her. Hi, Adrienne.
Hi, Nicole. My middle name is Nicole, so
we're like twins.
Yeah, you're my sister from another mister. How you doing?
I love it. I'm great. Okay, so here's the thing. We need to get in and really dive deep. Okay, are you ready for this?
I like the deep end, yes.
Okay. Because many moons ago, I was a morning show anchor, okay? And I had people who would call the station because really it was before the time of too much email and social media, but people would call the station and tell me they didn't like the color of my lipstick. I would have people call the station and ask my news director if I was pregnant because I was getting heavy. And so you gotta be tough as nails to be in the news business, right? And yet you are also soft and you have made kindness your superpower. So would you talk to me a little bit about that?
Well, I think that no matter what industry we're in, we face so many tense moments, right? I mean, it feels like even from when you were in the news business to today, it's become even more pressurized societally, culturally. Absolutely. On and off camera, we're facing these battles. Personal battles can cause us to respond in a way that's not kind. So I think that what I had learned and what I was actually mentored and coached in became my superpower, because it was like either I was going to become negative, I was going to become jaded based on what I'd been through, based on dreams that didn't happen and the timing I wanted, based on disappointments in life, based on the way somebody responded to me, or I was going to decide that no matter what happened around me, no matter what circumstances happened around me, no matter what email I received or phone call I received, that I would maintain kindness. And that truly has been something in my life that's gone beyond an action, beyond random acts, and become very intentional and very much a part of my identity.
Mm-hmm. I've talked to a lot of kindness advocates who say that the kindness for them isn't an act of kindness. It's a mentality. It's a space where they live.
Yeah.
So how does one live in that space when you are constantly like, you are on the go all the time, even now, maybe especially now? So where do you find space in your life for that sort of kindness?
Well, it's interesting because you have, I'm looking at the office space behind you, and you have "Be kind" on the wall. Kindness is contagious on the other wall. And I'm like, this is great. She's like a moving vision board. I think that what we've been intentional about, especially as working women, is being driven, being ambitious, being all these things that aren't bad, right? They're wonderful to be successful and to be someone who goes after their goals and at all costs, right? Mm-hmm. But I had to start applying that same drive to kindness, because it was really, I don't want to say it was like a life or death thing, but it was this awakening that I realized that while we were really ambitious about our careers, we were less ambitious about our relationships and about interpersonal communication and about being sensitive and being engaged and being present. And so it was just a flip of the switch. It was taking that same tenacity and applying it to something that a lot of people would consider elementary,
Mm-hmm.
but it's so not. It's so much deeper. You started the conversation with that. Kindness is so much deeper than most people give it credit for. And that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah. And the book is called Your Hidden Superpower, the kindness that makes you unbeatable at work and connects you with anyone.
Yeah.
Can you talk about when, and the book will be out June 9th. So it's exciting. It's on its way. But can you talk about when kindness really clicked? Do you have an earliest memory of that? And was that something from your family, or what made that click?
No, it was really my first news job. Funny enough, I didn't come up with the idea to write about kindness. It was my mentor, because he said, you should write a book on kindness. And I'm thinking there's lots of books on kindness. Like if people want to know about kindness, they just have to study it. But when he told me that, I didn't take it lightly. And I started thinking about all of the times and all of the ways that I've been very intentional day to day with my crew. And there was one moment when one of our engineers came into work, and he usually was very chipper, very nice, very friendly. And this particular day, he snapped at me. And I remember I'd been in the business for a couple of years. So I wasn't like green, but I was still young enough to know, you better watch your mouth when you respond to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't say anything, even though I wanted to. I wanted to snap back. I wanted to respond in an angry way. But I found out later his mom died. And it was just a crease in my life. It was a moment in my life where I said, I will never judge someone's cruelty or anger or hostility or yelling at me the same way. I'll assume that something terrible, tragic, or tormenting is happening in their life. And it gave me an added level of compassion. None of us have perfect lives. None of us live lives where, everything goes peachy keen and like we're walking on rose petals every day. But sometimes you take that baggage or that processing of emotion to work with you. And for us to ignore that is really unkind. And so I think that for me, I just looked at people more multidimensionally after that moment, even as a younger person, and said, I'll remember this so that I don't take it personally when someone barks at me or has a bad temper, or even if I have a bad temper, I'm more compassionate to myself because I know that I'm going through something.
What an incredible life lesson to take, especially into the new business where things move quickly and tempers flare and it gets hot because you're doing everything last minute live for everyone to see, right? It's a different sort of game. So I'm going to ask you for a second how you got to the mental space and how the rest of us, what advice you have for the rest of us to get to that mental spot. But first of all, I want to thank the Verona Senior Center. They are sponsoring the Kindness Podcast today out of Verona, Wisconsin. So hello to all of the seniors. And I hope that watching Adrienne makes you feel less isolated and less alone, because whether she's here right now or on TV, I know that Adrienne has a heart for you and what you're going through right now. And then, Adrienne, we want to say hello to some people. So let's see who we've got on here. Let's see. Somebody says we can't hear.
Can't hear what? Can't hear either of us or can't hear me?
Hey, Sarah. Sarah's in the back room. Sarah, can you hear us? We're going to be live. We're bringing in the background. I
was not ready for this.
I know.
You look beautiful, Sarah.
Watch me turn red.
Hey, this is what Kindness Podcast Live is all about, man. This is Sarah Tashin from my team. Sarah makes things go. She just makes things happen. But Sarah, I'm seeing from some of these people that they're not able to hear.
Yes. And I responded to them. I think they can hear now. It sounds like it's working. We checked with Nathan Hoffer.
Lisa said she can hear both.
Shout out to Nathan.
Okay. Yep. Lisa said she can hear both. Yep. Let's see. Vicky says we're loud and clear. Okay. I
can hear both of you.
Awesome. So you people, you sweet friends who have joined us today. Okay. Bye, Sarah. We'll let you go. She loves it when I do things like that. And that's what you get when you hang out with me, right?
Oh, I love it.
So Adrienne, I would imagine that you're fine answering questions from people that they send in last minute right now. Is that okay? People send in?
Let's go for it.
Okay. So send in your questions here, and I can see those off to the side. But Adrienne, I'm hoping that we can go back to that question, which is, you said, you got to the place where you said to yourself, I will not respond in anger to someone because I don't know what they're going through. How do we learn to live in that mindset?
Well, one of the first chapters of the book is one of my favorite chapters in my book, and it's about you being the kind who is kind. When I looked up definitions, because I'm a total dictionary nerd, I looked up the definition of kindness in the oldest dictionary I could find, because I wanted to get deeper than just what I felt like was a shallow definition of being kind. A lot of people just say, just be nice to everybody. But I tell the difference between nice and kind in the book. And I also tell the difference between being kind as an act and being kind as your identity. Because when you look up the term kind, it's your nature, it's your natural propensity, it's your determination, just like a genus or class or species. We use the term humankind as a unifying statement, right? Well, if we are all inherently kind in our DNA, then it will be a knee-jerk response. It's an automatic response. It's who we are. We can't help it. And when we focus on that, we shift our mind and our perspective from thinking, oh, I just have to be good enough. I just have to do enough good. I just have to act good, to I am kind. It is a whole different way of thinking about life. And so when I am in those situations, there are times I'm tested. There are times that I don't respond the way that I want to. But it's as simple as if somebody walked up to me and tried to tell me that I was pregnant right now. And I could tell them, no, actually, I'm not pregnant. I wouldn't debate with them. I would just be like, okay, you think I'm pregnant, but I'm not. I wouldn't have to vouch for that or prove it. Maybe I even look pregnant that day, but I'm not pregnant.
Leave us alone.
So we've all gotten that email, by the way, Nicole. Oh, are you expecting? But it's as simple as maybe I had an unkind moment. Maybe I didn't respond the way that I wanted to. It doesn't change the fact that I am kind. So I actually ask readers, who are you? I mean, when I ask that question, people are like, what do you mean, who am I? Well, I am kind. That's my answer.
I had someone ask me something once that stumped me. And so I'm going to give it to you, the expert here in front of us, because I'm loving how deeply you've thought about all of this and how it is you, it is your essence.
Yeah.
Someone said, if kindness is our essence, then why is it that we naturally gravitate toward the anger or the defense or the resentment? Why, when we kind of are growing up, do we start there?
See, I wouldn't necessarily debate it, but I could ask the question in response to that question. Is it a natural response? Is it natural, or is it nurtured through programming, through things that have happened? I mean, I think that when you are born, you have gifts inside of you and talents inside of you. And a lot of times we don't allow those talents or those gifts to be brought out into the open. Based on things that we've gone through, based on life slapping us in the face. The fact is, the older you get, and I'm glad I learned this at a younger age, the more that life kind of just beats you down. Life is not fair. If life was fair, there wouldn't be people dealing with the loneliness they're feeling right now. If life was fair, we wouldn't be dealing with the crisis we're dealing with right now. Life is not fair, but that doesn't deny the fact that you have gifts inside of you, a true essence inside of you that needs to be brought out into the light. And so I would ask the question, is it really a natural progression to those things like anger? Is that really our natural response, or are we just a product of our environment and seeing how other people respond based on the things that they've had to deal with? I like to tell people that being kind is the indelible imprint you leave on other people. And your kind of kindness is different than my kind of kindness. We can both buy somebody a cup of coffee in line at Starbucks, or we can both open the door for someone who's a senior who needs assistance. But when you really tap into your genuine identity of kindness, you're going to come up with creative ideas that I might not necessarily come up with. And life will try to smush those ideas down. But putting yourself in a space of kindness actually is a place of innovation.
I love that. Okay, we've got some questions here. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Kent Johnson says, like your pregnancy example, how do you correct people who say the wrong thing in a kind way so that you don't come across as angry?
Well, I talk about this in the book. I don't think that we're necessarily always supposed to correct people. I think that a lot of times that initiates a war. As a kid, my mom would say things like, pick your battles, right?
Mhm.
And motherly advice kind of comes up a lot as you grow up. But what I found many times is that, especially in culture today, with people being, I think, more on edge and angrier than ever, more emotional than ever,
Mhm.
that you have to really decide, is this something worth going to war for? Would it be better if someone says something unkind and it affects someone in your presence? I use the example of a woman who was in a shared lift with another passenger who she didn't know. And the other passenger who, again, they pooled the driver, was being very, very rude. So the woman I was talking to actually stood up for the driver, and it ended up being a fight, an actual fight between two women. I gave an example of sometimes the best thing to do is to let that person go off on their tirade. And then whoever they've affected, whoever's around them, go to that person who could be considered the victim or the person who was, offended, and say, listen, I just want to remind you, like, it's going to be okay. Don't let what they said ruin your day. You sometimes have to give yourself that pep talk. If
Mhm.
someone's speaking in a way that is unkind, allow them to have their session and then go into the bathroom and just remind yourself who you are. Because I don't think that you always stay quiet to be kind. I just think that right now it's more vital than ever to choose when you are going to speak up. And do you have the bandwidth at that moment to have compassionate language? Or maybe you speak to them later after the storm blows over.
Mhm.
Because when people are angry, and I've been angry, you've been angry, when we're really at our tipping point, we're not necessarily receptive to correction. It's
I'm
just
not.
common sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
maybe wait. If you have a relationship with that person, or if there's somebody on the job, wait a day or two and just say, hey, can we have a conversation? Can I take you out to coffee? And then maybe have a talk about it. Like, is there anything that I can do for you? One of the biggest things that I do in my life is, instead of saying, hey, how are you? I say, is there anything I can do for you? It's a totally different question. It takes about the same amount of breath. But when you say that, it's so surprising to most people, because they're like, nobody's asked me if I can have anything done for me. But when you do that, it opens them up to maybe discuss what's bothering them or what they could be pressured by. So that's how I would handle it.
Mhm. Yeah, there's great strength in timing and in quiet. So I think you definitely hit on both of those. It's in a way that I haven't heard before. Thank you. Lisa Hunter says, sometimes I feel like I'm surrounded by people whose first reaction is not kindness, and it can bring me down. And she said, you gave us some tips for that, Adrienne. She said, do either of you ever feel like that? Do you ever feel like that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And you know what is funny? I'll tell you, just recently, with everything going on right now in the world, social distancing is crucial. Like, I didn't realize how much I'm a people person. I am a huge people person, but I am a social butterfly whose wings were clipped with this whole thing. I mean, you can't go out and see the people that you want to see. You can't do what you want to do. And so I could have had a pity party. I mean, obviously you turn on the TV and you know that people have it worse than you, but your personal struggle is your personal struggle, and how you handle those emotions and your mental health is an individual journey. But one thing that was so cool, and one thing I talk about for the reason for this book, is as soon as I realized I'm not the only one going through this, I'm not the only one going through these feelings or this struggle that I'm having. How can I help other people who are going through the struggle too, who I don't even know? And when you ask that question, you end up getting the answers automatically for yourself. It makes you, again, more creative in a crisis moment than you ever could be if you just decide to cry and wail and feel like people are mean to you.
Mm-hmm. We got another great question. Doggone it. Last time he taught me how to say his name, and I think it's Elif, but I could be wrong.
I'm like looking all at the screen.
I'm like, let's see. Yeah. But the question is, are we surrounding ourselves with those things that bring out kindness in us and others? And I think that's really such more than a question. It's a great point, don't you think? Because when our wings are clipped a little bit, we have to be creative in finding ways to find our joy. what sort of ways do you find that it's Aleph. I'm sorry. Thank you, Aleph. What sort of ways do you find joy in the midst of this? And are you seeing other people do it as you're reporting on things?
Well, I think for me, I think we all need to take a deep breath.
Mm.
Gratitude is such a part of kindness. And when you breathe, you recognize that the power of life is harnessed in you at that moment. You command that breath. When I take a deep breath and I just close my eyes and I sit still, I realize, oh my goodness, I'm breathing, especially right now where people are holding their breath, waiting for when their cities and their towns are going to be able to go back into public life with a new normal.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be more conscious of how much we do have to be grateful for. And when we're grateful, it kind of, turns us to a new focus rather than how unkind the world is or how unkind that person or that phone call or that note was, or the fact that we might feel left out or misunderstood. But again, looking at your room, I think that it's just as simple as putting reminders of the word kind around you. Like, is it Aleph?
Yeah, Aleph. Mm-hmm.
Aleph said, surround yourself with reminders of kindness. No, we cannot assume that the people that we're with are going to be our kindness geysers.
Mm-hmm.
People are going through all their own stuff. So we have to encourage ourselves. That's a big part of kindness, is knowing, you know what? I'm going to be somebody's solution instead of asking why there's a problem.
Mm-hmm. So for everyone who is at home and me, because I am at home too, and you are at home as well.
Yes, there's
that idea of a big deep breath. Like, let's just collectively do that right now. Everyone, I'm going to stop talking for just half a second, and I just want you to take a big deep breath. I don't know about all of you, but I love that. And that, to me, is like nature. It reminds me that we're connected and that, the world goes on and around and it circles and it cycles, and we get to be a part of it. It's just so cool that even when it's not good, even when it's very bad, we get to be here. We get to be a part of it. We get to interact with others. And it's just so, so special.
It's so true.
So I'm going to see if I have any other comments on here. Thank you again to the Verona Senior Center in Verona, Wisconsin.
Hi, Verona.
Yeah, hi, Verona. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so for me, I love anything that has to do with Wisconsin. Where are you originally from?
I'm from a small town outside of Sacramento, California. I was born in LA, and I like to say I'm a country mouse, city mouse, because I love small towns and I love big cities. So yeah, I can make myself at home anywhere.
I have that spirit too. Like I love it both. I love it both. And someday when I'm able to roam again, it will be fun. But in the meantime, I'm right here in my little spot in South Dakota, which feels pretty good as well. Good. So, Adrienne, have you been able to notice a difference in your part of the world as far as the amount of compassion that people have now? It seems like, to me, something different is happening collectively, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Have you been able to notice anything like that?
Well, it's interesting. My favorite part of the day in New York is at 7 p.m. because every night for the past, I want to say 6 weeks, maybe longer, maybe 7, we have had people on fire escapes and balconies and on the street and on rooftops cheering our frontline workers, mostly the medical community. In fact, I think that's what it initially started as, is the medical community alone. But then that's expanded to our first responders, essential workers, police officers, and we cheer for them. And people have cowbells and people bang on pots and pans, and it's every single night. In fact, on my Instagram right now, in one of the recent posts, I was on the street walking because I thought, I want to walk on the street and see what it's like on street level. because usually I'm inside of my apartment by 7 o'clock. And you saw people on their morning jogs and they'll clap, people standing on the street applauding. Somebody was on a megaphone saying, "Come on, everybody, stay 6 feet apart." I mean, it was like being at a sporting event, except for it was the entire block. And it actually almost brings me to tears when I hear this, because we have been living in such a divisive time.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever that 7 o'clock rolls around and we're all cheering together, it doesn't matter what our background, what our economic status is, what our political beliefs are, what our religious beliefs are, we're all cheering for the same thing. And it just gives me so much hope that we are united in this one thing, at least. And that gives me hope that we can be united in other ways. And so the compassion that people have for their medical community, the gratitude they have for nurses and doctors right now is at an all-time high. And I just think, and even for teachers right now, I think that parents are super grateful for teachers at this moment in history, right?
Totally.
It's like we loved them before, but now we love them even more. And I think that's a shift in our culture that is very, very much appreciated.
I saw an Instagram post the other day that was of a car, and they had written on the side of the car to the teacher, "You lied. My child is not a joy to have in class." And I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. All right.
We act a little different at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's cute.
I thought that was pretty cute. Yeah. So it just seems to me like that there's the unfolding of this beautiful culture of kindness that's coming, not despite COVID-19, but because of it. And I just think that's lovely to me. So let's see, Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
Jenny says, "Can you please repeat your statement about becoming public or social, but in our new normal?" I want to remember how you said that. Uh-oh. Can you remember how you said that?
What did I say? What did I repeat my statement about what?
About becoming public or social, but in our new normal. So I think she's referring to when you said, you're a very social person and your wings flipped.
Yes. Yeah. So what I said was that, I could have just had my own pity party, even though you turn on the TV screens. And obviously there are people who have it far worse than those of us who are inside, safer at home do. But I don't ever deny the fact that there are a lot of people who live at home alone, that loneliness is probably as great an epidemic or greater than anything else right now. Anxiety and fear obviously are a big part of this, but there are so many people who don't have family members with them, who don't have the capacity to go out to the grocery store themselves and rely on kindness and rely on services. And that might be the only interaction they have. I mean, I have so much compassion because I think about how little physical contact we have right now. And there are people who do really well with a hug. Some people are not physical touch as their love language, but other people, they need that physical touch as their love language. And so one thing that helped me, I read my own book to help me to stay kind, because it's not something that you just, I've got it, I'm kind now, I'll never have to worry about being unkind again. But one of the side effects of kindness is that it makes you creative. And it makes you think of other people, serving them rather than worrying about your problems. You're a lot less likely to focus on negativity when you're focusing or thinking about or reflecting on a kind act done to you. So at one point during all of this, while there's not the social engagement that I would really like, because I thrive on it, and I thought, okay, how can I help other people to be more balanced or to feel more connected when I feel myself what they're feeling, which is that disconnect. And so I sat down, I was actually working on a course. So she's asking me to repeat what I said, but I'm actually going further.
Perfect.
And what I did was I came up with this campaign that I'm really excited that Good Morning America liked. And so you'll be seeing that on Good Morning America's social media channels, as well as online on their website, and on my Instagram for the book, which is @theunbeatablekind. But we're going to put a couple of challenges together for people so that they feel more connected. But really my point was in all that is, if you do feel alone, if you do feel socially removed because of social distancing, or you feel endangered because of social distancing, just with your own negative thoughts, I want you to take some time and just reflect on the fact that other people feel like you do and say, how would I help them? And don't just say, well, I have no idea because I can't even help myself. I want take yourself out of the equation and believe that you are the solution to the problem, because of all the people in the world, you know exactly what they feel like. So now you've become an expert. So what can you do? What inside of yourself, what answers could come to the surface? What could you dream board about? What could you brainstorm about that would help people? I mean, think of things that are wild outside the box. I told a group of women that I mentor inside of Disney, I said, throw paint at the wall. If the problem seems too big, if it seems too expensive, I don't care. Just start throwing paint at the wall. Just start coming up with answers. Because one of them was really concerned or felt empathy for the people who are dying in the hospitals alone, you know, having to FaceTime their loved ones. And so I said, okay, I was like, what if there was a big billboard that we could hang up? And I said, okay, well, the TV screens are like a billboard. So what could we put on the TV screens for them? And like, we just started talking it out. And it's like, that creativity is birthed when you decide that inside of yourself, with your amount of empathy, because you're going through it, you become the expert and you become a problem solver instead of focusing on the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that, because there are different solutions to that. And I had someone once tell me to write a letter to someone else who was experiencing the same problem that I had, and then to turn around and read that letter to myself. You know, you're writing to just a dear
That's
person
good.
who ends up being you. So we have a question from Noelle. What are some simple things we can do every day to practice kindness?
Well, one thing I like to do is tell people they need to schedule kindness. So that's the first part of the solution to doing kindness. I think a lot of times people think, oh, well, I'm kind, or I'll do something kind every now and then. But it's more than a random act, it's that routine. So if you decide every Monday that you're going to buy lunch for a friend or a neighbor or your doorman, if you live in a building like we do in New York, you see your doorman more than you see anybody else. And so it's like, what can I do to help or gift those people an encouraging, kind moment? And so, but scheduling it every single week, a daily act, a weekly act, a monthly act, will get you in this groove of kindness that will keep you more kindness focused. That's number one. And number two, a lot of people that I know to buy people meals are using Venmo or Cash App, some way of depositing money into their account. Even if you don't have a lot of money, you can buy somebody a coffee on Venmo and just leave a memo and say, hey, I'm buying you coffee today. They may not even go out and get coffee, but the fact is, if we were all out in public, we would be going to lunches with people. We would be having brunch on Saturday, and we're not doing that. So it's like, use the money that you would have spent for that and give them a gift anyway. That's one easy way that you can do it from your sofa. It's not a big deal. And, you know, masks are now mandatory for us here in New York. I don't know what it's like in South Dakota, but before masks were mandatory, I would smile at everybody because you could see my smile. And I think that smiling is one of the easiest things that is universally recognized as a kindness and a gesture to any person, no matter what your ethnic background, no matter what nationality. So smile at as many people as you see, because it makes all the difference.
Judy said, going to the grocery store with our masks on, it's noticeable that there's little response to others. So strive for a smile that reaches the eyes.
Yes, I agree.
You can see it. Your mind get all crinkly when I smile. So yes, that is great.
Yeah.
And so you have been so generous with your time, and I've kept you past the half hour that I was going to keep you here. Yeah. So I just want a few more people to be heard really quickly. And that's Nathan Hofer said, I've heard and agree that social distancing is the wrong term. It's about physical distancing. We need socialization and a community of support more than ever. Yeah. And I think that people who are good at using social media and being online like you are really good at bringing the rest of us along into your groups. And I appreciate that very much. Mm-hmm.
It's so true. It's so true. I think for me, the social part is the one way that we all feel that we're still together while apart. I just know that for sure it is nice to have someone hug you, hold your hand. Mm-hmm. I think so many people are looking forward to that. Oh my gosh, I can't even. That's very missed for a lot of people. That's very missed.
I love to hug, and I've met a couple of people recently, and one I said, if we could hug right now, I would be hugging you so big right now because it's just a way that I like to love people is through physical touch, through hugs. So Tracy says, thank you, Alif. Most people think of doctors and nurses as essential workers, but the only place I've gone is to the grocery store during this time. So they are essential workers.
Yeah.
And paid as much as doctors and nurses, but equally as important. So I try to be extra friendly or kind to them when I go to the store.
It's so important. I actually have a group of friends out in California who found out the local Walmart was hiring. They had a shortage of employees all across the nation. They've had an employment shortage, apparently, at Walmart. And so they went to work at Walmart for like minimum wage or a little bit more because they could. They had the time. You know, obviously a lot of people's jobs are work from home or they're doing different things with their schedule. And so they're going and customers are walking up to them and saying, thank you so much for working, for being here so that they can get their groceries. And it's an encouragement to see those people with a smile on their faces when they see the smiles, that somebody cares enough to keep those stores open. So,
yeah. And then, okay, Brian wants to know, what kind of memories does Adrienne have about her time living and working in Texas? He's done his research. Brian.
I know Brian. Wait a minute. I know Brian Dolgan.
Me too. Okay, small world. Brian was a sports announcer.
Yes, I know Brian. He worked, I think we both worked, if I can remember, Brian, and you will, I'm sure, mention it. We both worked at CBS 11, KTVT at the same time. But I love Texas. I could have stayed in Texas forever. It was very, very much like home. Sacramento has a nickname of Cowtown, and so does Fort Worth. Yeah, I went from Cowtown to Cowtown. But I mean, Brian, I couldn't possibly boil that down to one particular moment. But I do write in the book how my then co-anchor, him and his wife, actually invited me over to their house for Christmas. The first year I was there, I didn't have any family there. And they said, come on, you're used to a lot of family. You're used to a big family. So you can come spend the night at our house and open presents with the kids. And they bought me gifts. I mean, they'd known me for like 6 months. And I ended up going every Christmas to their house for Christmas. And it was just a very, very sweet memory that I'll never forget.
I would too if they were going to buy me presents. You bet. I'm there.
That was kindness. Let me tell you, kindness is getting me a gift. Yes, I like gifts.
Adrienne's book is called Your Hidden Superpower, the kindness that makes you unbeatable at work and connects you with anyone. And it comes out June 9th, and I checked, and you can pre-order it right now on Amazon. So
it'll look like this. This is an early copy. So, but it'll look like this, and it's Your Hidden Superpower, and you can pre-order it now, and you can get the book ordered on pre-order for Audible now. Yeah, the ebook, all of that. So.
Yes. So make that happen. And Adrienne, is there one last story of kindness or anything you want to leave with us before we let you go here?
Wow. I'm like, there's so much going through my mind. This was such a good conversation, but I would have to say that, you know, for people who are still able to go to the grocery store, because that's maybe one of the only places that you're getting any socialization. Yeah. Whenever you go to the store, and I know a lot of people are already doing this, but I've heard about people buying things for other people, and just, you know, scarcity can be something that tries to creep up on us at this time. We've heard the stories of people hoarding all that. I think we're past that at this point collectively, but even though it seems as though, and I pray this is true for the entire country, this is definitely true for New York, we're getting down to the downturn of this thing. You know, we're coming out of the worst of it. That you would think about other people when you go to the store, pick up something, ask your neighbor if they need anything. It just keeps you consciously aware that we are really connected, and that we really do appreciate those personal touches, those gifts, those thoughtful acts. And it keeps you conscious of your kindness muscle, because you're developing your kindness just like a muscle and giving yourself muscle memory, that when things do get tough, when we do face a crisis, when life is in chaos, that we are still going to be ourselves. We are still going to be our real and highest self, which is truly kind.
Mm-hmm. And if you're wondering about what to get, because you don't know what to get for a neighbor, they make these boxes of kind bars. So you could get a kind bar, set that, hand that to somebody, and no words necessary, right? Adrienne Bankert, thank you so much for being with us today. And I'm just very grateful for the light that you bring to this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. You've been awesome. You're a great host. And thank you, Sarah, wherever you are.
Sarah loves that. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, that was great.